Let me bang.
I do let you bang. Hey,
let me bang you, James, man.
I let you bang. I let you bang.
Greetings, marriage and virgins.
Go for Jesus. No forget Jesus, people.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time once again for your favorite mixed martial arts podcast. Recording out of Los Angeles, California, it's MMA Roasted with Adam Hunter.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
Hey, welcome to a brand new MMA Roasted Podcast. It's me, Adam Hunter. I am here with Sean McCorkle. Everything is great. This is going to come out Monday. It's Friday. We're recording this on Friday and I'm going to be on a cruise ship next week. So I wanted to give you guys a show, not wait a week. So I'm here with the man, McCorkle. He was supposed to come on Tuesday, but was in a lot of pain. So like I said, I had a show for a bunch of doctors, and not just any doctors, like some of the top neurosurgeons. They could do all kinds of stuff to you. They could, help you. These guys are like next level, and they have a whole program, and they have mushrooms. They're all kinds of really great technology, as well as like they're out there. And I was like, Sean, I'm going to sit these doctors down and ask them about you. And I did. I asked one of the main guys, and I told him everything you had, which was like, it was like 30 things. It was like, boom, boom. I mean, you don't even describe it until you see it on paper and you're like, man, this poor human being. And the guy said that basically you fucked yourself up so much with all the surgeries. Now they have to redo what they did wrong. And that is like, so not, he said it's normal for you to be in pain. He said, pain is now normal. Which I still didn't kind of comprehend that. But he thinks that you should be doing what they're doing, which is this whole process and this whole other way of doing it. So I'm going to give you their information. But because I sat there and listened to them, what did you think of what that doctor said?
It sounded a lot like I went to a really good place. There actually is one good group of surgeons in Indianapolis that's at least Midwest renowned, whatever that's fucking worth. But the guy I may have told you this before, but I asked the surgeon when he looked at all my stuff, I said, well, what would you tell me if I was your son? What would your advice be? And he said, I would tell you your life as you knew it is over. And he said, and that was 2014 that he told me that. And I said, okay. And he goes, there's no fixing what you have. He said, you have so much damage to your back. In addition to, he said, your vertebrae are time and a half the size of normal people, which made me feel like the Elephant Man or some shit. But he said, you have massive vertebrae. The discs are normal size, so that's on there. And I said, well, if I lost a bunch of weight, he goes, yeah, it's not going to make much of a difference. He said, because the damage is already done. The problem I have, dude, I think I told you this, I'm going to get screened for cancer. I like to bring up cancer all the time. But my facet joint, which means nothing to anyone who's not a back surgeon, but that's what hurts. It burns 24 hours a day. I mean, like someone's got a hot poker in my back. And no one will listen to me. They keep telling me, well, it's not your facet joint. And I'm like, well, all my symptoms say it's my facet joint. When you guys stuck me with a needle to burn off the nerve endings, I said, that's where it hurts. That's how it hurts. That's my facet joint. And they stuck 3 different times. They burned off the nerve endings supposedly in that joint, and then never helped. But when they did a deadening shot, they give you a shot to basically diagnose it. When they shot me in the facet joint, I said, okay, it's gone. It's gone now. Like the minute they did, I said, pain's gone. So that should have diagnosed that's what it is. But I finally have doctors who are listening to me now who say that that it's probably the facet joint. That's what the doctor, after I talked to him for an hour the last time, he goes, it's probably your facet joint. I was like, that's what I said when I walked in here, you know what I mean, or whatever, after he did all his diagnosed stuff. But now I don't know if I told you, I might be just getting a pain pump in, which is basically they stick some kind of straw into your spine and it drips pain medication 24 hours a day to basically block the pain below a certain level in your spine. But even that, they said it's not going to be 100%. They said it'll just reduce it some, but it's not going to be 100%. But it's dude, I'm telling you, I don't say this very often. If I did not have kids, I'd shot myself by now. Like, it is that bad. It is. I slept probably 3 hours last night, probably 2.5 the night before.
Well, the doctor
wake up every 30, 45 minutes.
So reach out to that doctor. And then there was one guy that was above him. And I'm going to reach out to him too for you. But anyway, so we're off to a great start. I'm sure you guys are really happy to hear about our problems. But I'm telling you.
I didn't know we were on air.
We're on air, man. This is the realest podcast as it gets, man. So Nate Diaz has posted a tweet saying he wants to go to Bellator. He says, I don't know if he's old enough, but he basically, Nate Diaz said, and I would hate to see that happen. He goes, I'm trying to get on this Bellator card in April with my boy Yancey in Hawaii. Yancey started with, he's fighting Emmanuel Sanchez, which is a great fight. He goes, what up with it, Bellator, MMA? Man, I don't think that the UFC wants to lose the Diaz brothers. I mean, it's going to happen eventually, and based on Nick's last performance, which was a very exciting fight, but man, it wasn't the Nick Diaz of old. And I'm sure people are going to okay, fine. I mean, Nick Diaz in his prime, Nick Diaz beat Robbie Lawler in his when they were younger. It wasn't even like, it was a great fight, but
he wasn't in shape for his last fight. There's no doubt about that. As much as I love Nick Diaz, he wasn't in shape. So, but
I think Nate still has it in him to compete with some of the top guys in the UFC, if not beat them. So I would kind of hate to see Nate go. The thing about Bellator is that you don't even know when it's on. They do such a bad job letting people know when the fights are on and how to watch the fights, which I think should be the main thing. If anything else, right. Even if you don't watch it, you should know it's on. And then you should choose not to watch it. But when you don't watch it because you have no idea it's on, that's when it's a problem. Why is your light flicking on and off, or am I?
Yeah, that's my TV. I'll flip it off here. I thought the TV would provide light. Apparently, it's just messing things up. Let me see this.
But yeah, and then Conor McGregor says basically he's going to waltz right in and fight Usman, which I don't understand. You've lost your last two fights. I understand that you got injured the last one, but you were losing before you got injured. Why would they just let you? I mean, the only way I can see that happening is if Usman is fighting Leon Edwards and that fight a week out, Leon gets hurt and then McGregor's waiting and then they go, okay, you could fight for the title because of the short notice. That's the only way. In which case, I also think it's rough because you're not promoting the McGregor fight. It's like you're promoting it, but people, it's like otherwise. I mean, you think he's just saying that to talk shit or what?
Yeah, I think he just likes to keep his name in the news. He don't want to lose him, man. He can't win that fight. I mean, anything can happen, but he'll get taken down and, dry humped for 5 rounds. There's no, Usman's just too big. Conor needs to, if I were him, it would make sense to me, the UFC. I think they're going to let Nate, actually, I think Nate Diaz is leaving, but they should have Conor and Nate Diaz 3 and just get it over with. That's a fight Conor can win. And if Nate loses, then he can leave and go do what he wants. If he wins, they might be able to, pay him. They're never going to pay him what he's worth or what he wants, but it's sad, man. The Diaz brothers are probably the 2 most underutilized guys in the history of the UFC. I think they could have been selling millions of pay-per-views, and the UFC will blame them. Well, they don't want to fight. They do want to fight. They're hard to deal with, I know, but if they were being paid what they're being paid or should be being paid, I bet they would fight 5 times a year. So
I told you when I was over at Fox Sports, they were going to record Nick Diaz for one of the countdown specials, and they went down to Stockton. And he doesn't show up at the gym.
Right.
And he says he was. And Nate's walking in and out all day. And they're like, hey, where's your brother? I don't know. And this happened for like 3 straight days.
Yeah.
Like,
I had I won't put his name out there, but there was a guy that used to represent them, but actually represented me also, an agent. And we were in Las Vegas. I was hanging with him one night. And he goes, dude, this is what it's like to deal with. And he scrolled down. He showed me 4 different times that Nate asked what the room number was in the past like 12 hours. Like, dude, what's my room? What's our room number? Get at the hotel. So he's like 253, and like 2 hours later, dude, what's that room number? And like the guy was like, man, is he deleting my text? Like as soon as it's over, like I don't understand because it's still on there, But
yeah, I know a fighter who had like a 2-1 record, but had like a big name and other things, and he was friends with the Diaz brothers, and he was his manager all of a sudden, and he tried calling Sean Shelby and saying, hey, if you want to have Nate fight next, you got to sign me too. And he was like, no, that's never going to happen.
Yeah. They don't go for that Fedor treatment. Like, hey, we're going to, as long as you got Fedor, you're going to take 7 Russians too. They're like,
yeah. They're like, nah, man, that's not, it was just funny. I'm not even sure, but anyway. So that's going on. Henry Cejudo, by the way, who I love, he's a good friend of mine. We work together a lot, but he told me, so some reason Peter Yan's corner can't get in the country. I don't know where he's from, but
there's a war going on in Russia.
So right, maybe that's why. Right, that makes a lot of sense. I'm a complete idiot.
I thought you were being sarcastic when you said you didn't know why, like you didn't know where the war was going on.
Yeah, right. Well, that makes sense. That they would have it is a war and he's in Russia. That makes sense. Good point. I'm a moron. Okay, so they can't. So he can't. So Peter Yan basically wants to corner, doesn't have a corner for his next fight against Aljamain. So he asked O'Malley to corner him as well as Cejudo. And Cejudo said, I'll corner you if you give me, and we had some jokes. And then now he's like, then now they're going back and forth. So, but Cejudo really thought he was, but like,
it was a bit of a missed opportunity for Cejudo, like just to, I don't know. What was he saying? You got to give me the belt after or what?
No, I had Cejudo say, "Oh, well, we worked together." I had him say, "All right, give me a high chair," and then like you need me with like a KN, like you need me,
right?
And then Peter Yan goes, just shut the fuck up and don't give me any of your stupid advice. And then
I guess I didn't translate very well into that. People tend to be edgy when their country's at war with the world. So
right. And then what's the name said? Basically, Conor McGregor said, he keeps calling Cejudo a little fart, and then he goes, "What do you know about farting? You're always out of gas." That's what Cejudo keeps responding to that. I don't know where he's getting these funny tweets from, but yeah. So me and Henry, anyway. But what was I talking about? So that's going on. I don't want to go over the fights that are tomorrow because it's going to air Monday, so I guess we could go over some of the next fights. Oh, by the way, what do you think of the transgender swimmer that just won in the NCAAs?
Yeah, I think he did really well. That's what I think. It's ridiculous, man. Like it is the dumbest thing in the world. It's to act like men don't have a biological advantage is the craziest. I heard one time, man, I was kind of not against women's rights, but this, we're equal stuff all the time, because they're not in certain ways, not physically equal, a lot of them. And I wanted to, some lady wanted to play on the men's golf tour, and they were like, it's men only, you have your own thing. But I guess she was the best golfer in the world. And she said, I'm not saying that because I'm equal. It's because I want to play on the highest level. Men's is the highest level. So that's what I'm saying. If I can compete with the men, let me step up and play. And that actually made sense to me then. As long as I thought she was going to get blown out and just saying that, I should be able to compete with men because it needs to be fair. But I guess she was shooting as well as any man was at the time. So she wanted to compete at the highest level. So it would be different if a girl wanted to come across like compete with the men, I think. But I don't know, man. You can't say anything right about that.
I had a feeling she was going to pull it off,
Yeah. It's beat like several Olympic medalists, right? And
I actually wanted to tweet that. Like, I had a feeling she was going to pull it off, but then people were just like, I'm like, do I want to get canceled for this one? But then I'm like, what am I getting canceled from? It's just fun.
That's what I always say. It's I'm lucky I'm not famous, because then I would get canceled for sure. But
all right, so ESPN. But here's the thing. I am all for trans rights. I do think that they need their own division. It should be a separate division. And if she's the only one, and I'm going to call her a she, that's what she wants to be known as, then she wins. She comes in first place. And then let's have her, and this should be men, women, and trans. But I don't think that, I know they don't want to be, I'm not a trans, I'm a woman, but you should maybe have a trans man and a trans woman, because I think that if you're just, ignoring the fact that she was 550th as a man, and now she's in first place as a woman, then we all have to everyone has to pretend that this is that there's no advantage, and we shouldn't ask people to pretend things, because then that's a whole nother thing of, well, I don't want to pretend something isn't happening when it is.
Right.
Because now you're asking.
Yeah. Like that she's actually a woman. I don't want to pretend that.
No, I'll pretend that she isn't right. Go on.
I'll call him she when he or she calls me skinny. Because if she can pretend like she's a girl, he can pretend like I'm in phenomenal shape. So.
Right. But you don't think you're in phenomenal shape, though.
Yeah, but I also don't think he's a girl. So it works out. I don't believe either of them. So.
Well, you know what? That is your right to think that. And I think that's the problem, is that we're getting into a situation where you're saying you're not allowed to say that or to think that. And I'm like, well, I don't, look, I used to know military people, a lot of people that serve in the military. And they were like, listen, I may not agree with your speech, but I'll die trying to fight for it. Now it's like, I may not agree with your speech, and you're not allowed to say it. And you're like, whoa. Like, that's, come on. And then, whatever. All right, so let's talk about the fight that's going on this Saturday, which will be when you're watching it, not the actual Saturday, but which is Curtis Blades versus Chris Daukaus. Chris Daukaus is the guy who's a cop, who's like the world's toughest cop. He like was knocking everyone out until he fought the Black Beast, and then he lost by knockout pretty quickly in the first round. He went punch for punch with the Black Beast, which is like the worst.
Which
possible.
Probably wasn't new for him, but
no, for anybody. Anybody's
I mean, for a cop, I mean.
But before that, he knocked out Shamil Abdurakhimov, Alexei Olnik, Rodrigo Nascimento, Parker Porter. So
you're telling me, Adam, if I was a cop, I could have fought that lineup in the UFC instead of Mark Hunt and Stefan Struve right off the bat for my first two? Because if you'd have given me those four, I guarantee I'd have won two of them.
Right. No, I know. It's crazy they gave you Mark Hunt in your first fight.
And tricked me into it. They didn't tell me who my opponent was when I signed my agreement. It was blank.
Yeah.
And they said it'd be another first-time UFC guy. And I said, okay, so you're not like putting me in there, like throwing me to the wolves, because I didn't really care about fighting the UFC at that point in my life. You know what I mean? Like I was like, I was making as much as the UFC was going to pay me at local shows because they didn't pay me very much, you know? So they're like, oh no, it'll be a first-time UFC guy. Then the contract came 2 weeks later, and I saw Mark Hunt, and I hit up Joe Silva. I texted him. I said, is that Mark Hunt from like Japan or Iowa? You know what I mean? Like not from Japan, but I mean from, like Australia, New Zealand, that fought in Pride. And he was like, yeah, that's him. I was like, cool. So another first-time UFC guy, technically.
So it's kind of how like, what's his name? Bill Murray got tricked into Garfield. You ever hear that story? See how he agreed to do the voiceover of Garfield?
Right.
It's because they're like, oh, this guy's directing it. The guy had a very famous name of another director. He's like, oh, that guy's directing it, I'll do it. And then he got stopped doing Garfield, and he didn't want to do Garfield. And like Bill Murray, and the notorious, like you can't even reach him. Like he has no phone. He has like no like email. Like you have to call like a payphone in Chicago, and then somebody, and so you have to know somebody that knows him. Like he's like one of the hardest people to reach, which I would love to have that level of fame. But then he did Garfield, and it did so well that he was in Garfield 2 because it made like $100 million.
Yeah.
And then they have like 30 directors now in Garfield 2, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't initially want to do Garfield at all. He was like, no.
Maybe the director identified as Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't actually his name, he just identified as him.
Or like when did you hear about Old Dirty Bastard when he did that song Ghetto Superstar? That tale story? That was my favorite. So I'm a big Wu-Tang fan. So Old Dirty Bastard, because that guy Praz, who was on the song, it was him. I forgot who the girl was. I want to say Maya. And they were like, how did that happen? He's like, dude, I was in the recording studio in LA and I was working on the track, and Old Dirty Bastard like shows up, and he's like, yo, this is my time. He thought he was in New York. He was in California. And he's like, I'm in the studio. And like, he's like, dude, you're not even in the wrong studio. You're in the wrong state. Like you're on the other side. He's like, nah, man, nah. And they're like arguing. And he's like, and not to mention there was like an elevator, and the one he thought he was supposed to be at, like you couldn't even have got. He goes, yo, that song sounds pretty good. What is that? He's like, let me hop on that. And he's like, so he walks in, like just starts rapping on the track. He's like, I was gonna delete it a second after he left, but I'm like, yo, this actually sounds pretty good. Then they had a huge hit on their hand, which I like love that story for like so many reasons.
I'm sure he was compensated fairly for it too, since he had no paperwork signed ahead of time. They probably threw him $25. Like, thanks, man. Like dirty as the music industry is.
I didn't even think about that. You ever see when Steve-O goes to like Steve-O, from Jackass? They had
that's Steve-O?
That's
what you meant.
Not Steve-O. Dude, you're killing me today with like logic. So Steve-O went to it was like after ODB died, they had like a show for him. It was like it wasn't a funeral, but it was like a celebration. It was like a memorial, but it was like a concert memorial for ODB.
They got together to remember when he was a young dirty bastard.
And like all of Wu-Tang is there, and like their families are all there. Steve-O shows up on like heroin, right? And he thinks it's a good idea to get naked and do a backflip. But first he's going to get naked. He puts his dick back and forth like 50 times. It's on Twitter. You could actually see this. Let me see if I could actually share it. So, and, dude, talk about like, man, this was not a good idea. Well, I'll see if I find it. It is one of the most awkward. And then of course, like he does that. And what's his name gets really mad, Raekwon the chef, who's not a chef, by the way. I thought he actually was a chef, but he's not an actual chef because I'm good friends with Russell Peters, and he stays at Russell Peters' house. And I was like, hey, is he really a chef? He's like, no. I was kind of disappointed. Like he was, but
It's awesome. You let a guy with the name the chef live at your house and he doesn't cook for you. Like, it doesn't seem very fair.
Hold on. I'm just typing in, dude. So Steve-O ODB, right? Steve-O ODB, right? All right. So, dude, you want to talk about like things going, all right. So this is 1 minute and 32 seconds, right? So I'll share the screen. It's just me and you for a while, by the way. All right, Steve-O, boom. All right, so it only has 4,000 views. I don't know how this doesn't have a million views.
I'm going to do a fucking double back flip. The double back being my dirty dick. Right?
This was at his funeral?
At the memorial concert.
Dirty style. Ladies and gentlemen, the double back flip.
It doesn't.
Niggas a fucking crackhead or something, man.
Dude, it doesn't at the memorial.
Niggas on heroin, man.
But it doesn't go very well. Watch. This is Raekwon.
Real quick. Hey, yo, check this out, homie. Listen. I appreciate that. And I'm going to tell you right now, in front of all these people, you're going to apologize or I'm going to knock you out in front of all these people. I'm not playing. Straight up, that was disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready to fuck you up. So you better apologize right now. And I'm going to chill straight up.
Man, I apologize, dude. I mean, I honestly did not mean any disrespect. I came here because I loved her. And I'm sorry.
Yo, apologize to his mom. Your mom, can you come here for a minute?
You have to apologize to his mom, too. So, yeah, that's...
I was trying to see where his dad was on there, but I remember he was a bastard, so his dad probably didn't go to the...
I mean, then it's like apologize to his aunt. And imagine he went up to every single person at the concert and apologize. But like, talk about like, why would he think that was a good idea? He's like, he said there was actually, I actually looked into it. I'll tell you why. According to him and Old Dirty Bastard did a show together like weeks before, and they were both on drugs. And Old Dirty just got naked, and like they were both naked on stage doing heroin during the rap concert while rapping. It was like a crazy show. So, but man, and he actually asked Method Man, "Hey, is this a good idea?" And he's like, "Yo, do your thing." And then he did that, and but not everyone in the Wu-Tang found it funny. Yeah.
I guess that's probably really improper in Asian culture.
Because I mean, man, talk about like bad. Meanwhile, so I did a joke on here last week that I thought was funny. Like, so Kevin Holland, you hear what Kevin Holland did?
I know.
So
actually, when he beat up a guy robbing a store.
A guy was about to shoot up a store, like 50 people, or some kind of, I don't know where he was, but him and his friend took the guy down, detained him. Cops came. He saved like 50 lives. This guy, Kevin Holland, is a hero. Fucking nothing but respect for Kevin Holland. But I'm like, I got to write a joke. So I'm like, well, and even more also impressive is that was his first takedown in 5 years, right? So I thought it was funny. I put it on Instagram. Kevin Holland was like, he wrote back this guy with a thumbs up emoji, which is like not what you want to get is of this guy, you know. Plus he's known for now beating up trolls. I don't know if you know this. He's been inviting trolls.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So I was like, I texted him. I DM'd him. I said, hey, Kevin, I hope, you know, I didn't mean disrespect. It was amazing what you did. You want me to take it down? And he was like, yeah, it's kind of corny. And, you know, some of the MMA jokes are forced, but it's your page, do your thing. So I like, yo, man, I took it down. I'm like, I'm not going to, like, the guy just saved 50 people. I don't want to, like, put a damper in his week. But I thought it was an innocent joke. I called him a hero. I gave him props. But it was like innocent jab. But
at least he didn't make you apologize to his mom and aunt. That would have been really, really bad.
But I was like, damn, like I'm a fan of Kevin Holland. What he did was, I want to believe that I would have done the same thing in that situation. It's easy to say that. I don't know because that hasn't happened to me yet. But holy shit. And hopefully it never will. But man, talk about some people, they really know how to rise up to a situation and really amazing. Like incredible.
That's what a lot of people don't understand, not to talk about how great fighters are, but there's something wrong with you when you fight UFC, like mentally, there's a little bit off. Like that's when people are like, can you believe Cain Velasquez shot at that dude? I'm like, yes, I absolutely, like Cain is not a guy that bluffs. You know what I mean? He's not the kind of guy that would bluff. Like he, you know, like he's got balls the size of an elephant to start with. So when you say the Kevin Holland guy, you gotta be a little crazy anyway. So when someone pulls out a gun, you know, if he was that afraid to die, he wouldn't be fighting for a living, you know?
Right.
So,
no, it's absolutely true. You know, that was really cool, man. Really cool. So Kai Kara France, he's the guy that just knocked out Cody No Love. He's fighting Oskar Askarov, who's 14-0-1, also from Russia. They call him the Bullet. He beat Joseph Benavidez. Pretty sure he beat him. He beat Tim Elliott. He lost to Brandon Moreno, but it was declared a split draw, which is funny because, you know, you lose to these guys. He's 14-0-1 draw. You know, when you lose to a guy like Brandon Moreno and then he goes on and wins a championship, it's got to make you feel a lot better, right?
Right.
I mean,
most people, yeah. When I beat Mark Hunt, he beat 6 people in a row. After that, like finished 6 guys in the UFC in a row, and everybody's like, "Why didn't you try to capitalize on that?" And I was like, "Because all 6 of them would have probably beat me, so it'd be hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I could have beat."
You're the most humble, cocky fighter I've ever met. Like, because as humble as you are, like on the show and in real life too, I've never met like a guy who successfully banged as many hot girls as you have. Like you would send me pictures of these girls that were not like 12s. They were all Brazilian fitness models. And you're like, yeah, but then you would fuck it up over some stupid joke. Like literally you would text them like, hey, like something about you like banging the lady's grandma or like a weird racial Jewish joke or something that only like I would laugh at. But I'm like, why did you sacrifice the pussy for this joke? I never understood you.
The joke's the most important thing. But what's awesome is for the last 2 minutes, I thought you said 12, not 12s. And I was sitting there thinking, like, what are you talking about? Like I said, I didn't catch the S on the end of that. I was like, wait, what?
No, 12 out of 10. Not like 12. So like you wouldn't bang. No. You would bang 12.
It threw me off. I was like,
yes.
Yeah. I was wondering when to interrupt you on that part. Like, not 12. But.
So on this card, by the way, in Columbus, Ohio, which is cool, man. I mean, I like watching the fights at the Apex, but at the same time, there's something missing about all these maniacs in the crowd. Although I don't miss the woohoo, the Ric Flair. It's like even Ric Flair.
This is in Columbus, Ohio?
Yeah, Columbus, Ohio.
I thought it was in England.
No, this week is England. But this
after that. Okay.
Because it's airing Monday, the podcast. So I'm talking about the card that's airing in Ohio, which I'm happy to not hear. I never want to hear that Ric Flair thing again. Even Ric Flair is like, I'm done. It's like,
yeah, it's played out for sure.
Oh man. But it's Matt Brown versus Brian Barberena. That might be the fight of the year. Either the one guy's going to get knocked out in 12 seconds or it's going to be the greatest fight I've ever seen in my life. Because those two guys, you talk about warriors. Holy shit, man. I mean, these guys are like, there's fighters and there's athletes. These guys are good athletes, but I put them in the fighting category first. I mean, they're just fighters. Matt Brown would have been a fighter in UFC 1, and Brian Barberena would have been UFC 1. Like, they're not fighting for money. Like, these guys will just fight. They just fight. Like, these are the toughest guys I've ever seen in my life. And I don't even know who wins this fight.
I saw Matt Brown fight. He fought Chris Lytle, not in the UFC. This is before Matt Brown ever fought in the UFC. So it's the first time I've ever seen him fight. And this is when Lytle was doing really well. And Chris Lytle's one of the toughest dudes I've ever, like, despite his, 50-50 mark in the UFC, but dude, he can fight. That dude is no joke. But I saw them fight at a local show here in Indianapolis. And I figured Lytle would not be because he would never fought in the UFC. But they went, I want to say the second or third round, and it was a war, man. I was like, dude, that dude's tougher than shit. Like watching him fight, And then he got in UFC shortly thereafter that. But yeah, Matt Brown, surprised he never got a title shot because I heard him in an interview say he used to be on heroin at some point. And so like usually that's the prerequisite from everything I've heard on the show.
Like, died 5 times also. I think he also was like, I don't understand, like you pronounce legally dead and then you come back to life. It seems like that's becoming more and more of like a thing.
Fashionable.
Like, yeah, honestly, like I never heard that. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, he died twice. He died 3 times. Like it's becoming now like, is this something, am I missing something? I thought when you died, you're dead. Like
Well, apparently not.
And they're all
Adam's like, I thought when you died, you were dead. And then Steve-O does naked backflips at your funeral and things are back to, normal. But that's the way it goes.
Also, Joanne Calderwood is who married her coach, John Wood, which is like they got lucky in that situation. She's the sweetest girl ever. I mean, nicest, most like softest voice, like hot voice, tats, cool stepmom. Talk about a cool stepmom because they have John has a little kid, and I'm pretty sure he has a little boy. Imagine having like a stepmom that's like fights in the UFC. I mean, how badass would that be?
Yeah.
My stepmom used to catch me watching like movies when I was naked. I was a little pervert when I was like 7 or 8. I'd watch like Porky's or, and she'd be like, you want to see someone naked? Look in the mirror naked. I'm like, it's not the same. I'm not trying to look at my own 9-year-old dick, like fucking naked, but yeah, it was.
I thought you were saying that she took her clothes off then. I was going to be like, Adam, I don't think that's legal. Like what happened?
No, she would yell at me about watch that. I mean, we had a really rough relationship growing up, but it got better towards the end. Before she died of cancer, it got much better towards the end. But I used to fucking fall asleep on the couch. She'd get off the fucking couch like I was a dog and fucking like smack. Like she never legally adopted me and my sister, and that was always a problem. She had a son. I don't want to bore you guys with this. I mean, one day I'll talk about my fucked up childhood and how I ended up here. But I'm not sure this is the time. Alir Latifi is fighting Alexei Ozolnik, who's now 59 wins, 16 losses, and 1 draw. I mean, damn. And he's the guy that always wins by that one submission. What's it called again? Like he does.
I think it's called the worst choke ever. Like I think that's what. Because I can't believe anyone gets finished with it. It's like an Ezekiel choke or something, right? Like
Ezekiel,
some weird.
right? Yeah, Ezekiel. Yeah. He always wins by Ezekiel, but I think Latifi knocks him out. I don't even. This fight's weird. This is like a Bellator main event, or Khabib's Eagle FC or something. By the way, I was wrong about Kevin Lee when he fought Diego. You watched that fight?
Yeah, I saw actually a little bit of it. I didn't see the whole thing. Whatever.
So he tore his ACL and doing the first kick of the fight. So props to Kevin Lee for fighting with a torn ACL. I know when I tore my ACL, I was like Bambi, I couldn't even step on it. I couldn't imagine fighting against Diego Sanchez for 3 rounds. I
thought you were going to tell me that someone shot your mother when you tore your ACL.
Yes.
That explains the stepmom.
Exactly. My mother, I didn't know my mother was till I was 3, till I was 21. After like 9/11, I found out where she was. She was alive. I called her up and she picked up the phone and said, hello. She's living in Canada. And I was like, where have you been my whole life? She's like, here. And she basically just said, I'm like, well, why didn't you try to find me? She's like, your father had custody. You got to move on with your life. Just hung up. And I just started bawling, dude. Like, I thought I was, my whole high school, I got sent to this boarding school. You had to like deal with your problems, talk about your problems, 2 hours a day. You had to have an issue. It was insane. But that was one of my issues. I thought I was done dealing with it until that phone call. And then I was like, it was like a faucet. But
I got a story like that real quick. I knew a fighter one time. He's a local fighter, a really good dude. He told me one time, he said, hey, he was getting ready to fight and he's kind of like being weird backstage. And he said, or back in the locker room, he said, I grew up without my mom, right? And I was like, no, I didn't know. He goes, yeah, 12 years old. He didn't know his dad, I guess. She had custody of him and his little sister. And he said, I came home one day and she just wasn't there anymore. He said, she just wasn't home. And he said, like, it took me a couple of days to realize she wasn't coming back. He said, so I called the police or whatever. They come find out. And I guess she just abandoned him. No one knew where she wasn't a missing person, just abandoned him and his 6-year-old sister. And he said, yeah, he goes, that was 10 years ago, approximately, or whatever. He said, guess what? I said, what? He goes, she's in the crowd tonight, the front row. Like he was fighting, making his MMA debut. She didn't know he was there. He didn't know she was going to be there. Just so happened he hadn't seen her in 10 years since she walked out. And he's like, it's going to be a little hard to fight. And I said, dude, afterward, just go up to her and be like, talk about the good times, like, hey, you remember Christmas when I was 5? You remember this when my sister was born? You remember this? Remember that time I came home when I was 12 and you were just gone for like 10 years? And like I said, just tell them you got me. Like I really thought you weren't coming back. Like played off like it was a joke. I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
That's crazy. No, my wife's father, like she never knew him at all. He was gone before she was born, and then I think she met him once, and he was like wanting to come to my comedy show in Canada because it was in his town. And she told me like on Monday, I was half asleep or something. So then Saturday, some old guys in the cup and there with a woman. I'm like, oh, how'd you get here? The whole thing, the old folks. And then he's like, I'm your wife's father. And everyone started like applauding. And I just like shit on him before this, like 20 minutes. And I was like, no, don't clap. This guy's a deadbeat. I go, don't. And people thought I was kidding. I'm like, no, seriously, do not clap for this guy. And people are like, huh. I'm like, where's our wedding gift, you asshole? Like, I just said that from the stage. I got off stage. They handed me like a stack of like money for like our wedding. I mean, it was Canadian, so it was like $6. But yeah, I guilted them into that. But that was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So Sarah McMahon, who is a great mom, 2 kids, adorable person, nice person. She's fighting Carol Rosa. I hope Sarah wins. I really do. I feel like Sarah, I mean, she got to the title shot. She was the Invicta champion, I think, and she got to the title. She fought Ronda Rousey. Remember, she lost by knee. I think that was the fight that really cemented Rousey. That and the Kat Zingano fight. Remember, people were thinking that Ronda wouldn't lose for 10 more years. They were saying have movies and the TV series and all this other shit. And look,
Rogan thought she could beat half the guys in the 145-pound division in the UFC and actually believed it. So,
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, looking back, but back then people were like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Kayla Harrison, I don't think she can beat guys in the UFC at 155, but she could beat a lot of male pros. I feel like,
not UFC level, but yeah, if she's fighting at a local show or something, she
might even be able to catch some guys though. I mean, like I know the manager, I think it was Ali Abdulaziz, who's like a good, high level judo black belt. And people, they shit on him all the time because of sometimes of his antics and, whatever. I'm not even going to go into his background because me and him are cool, but he was telling me that, when he rolled with Ronda, it was like, but when he rolled with Kayla, like she's next level. She's a monster, monster. I think that she doesn't get her just due because she's in a weight class that there's not that many good girls in there at 55. I don't think she's 45. But
you'd have to see it to believe it. I know that there's a video of Ronda just rolling around with Musasi a little bit.
Yeah.
This is when Musasi was fighting at 170, and it looks like a dad playing with his 4-year-old daughter, just throwing her around like she's nothing. Like it's not even close.
170 or 185.
I think he may have been 185. That's right. 'Cause he went up to 205. Yeah. I mean, he's bigger than her for sure, but it was a joke watching him, like her trying to do anything to him. It isn't like he's a powerhouse, like strength.
But don't you think that at that time he fights at 85, he's probably got 210, 215?
He's probably 200, but she was probably 160. So I would guess she cut a lot of weight, but I mean, it's still man to a woman, a lot of weight, but it just, what's funny is the guys, like I have a barber that used to cut my hair. He thinks he could beat Ronda Rousey in a fight, like during her prime. And I was like, dude, you weigh as much as her. You weigh like 155 pounds. And I was like, she would kill you. And he's like, there ain't no way. I was like, based on what? Your long experience in fighting and training? Like what skills do you have that would
now it's getting to the point where everyone thinks that Jake Paul can beat up anyone in the world. Like anybody anyone under 18 now thinks that Jake Paul would kill but I hate to say
Jake Paul's such a genius, man. He's such a marketing genius. It's crazy.
But it's hard to think. But if Jake Paul fought Ben Askren in MMA, and Ben Askren actually trained, he had 2 months to train, he would win, right? I mean,
even if he didn't train, he would murder him. Yeah, he would take him down so fast he wouldn't even know where he was at. Yeah, he would. He would take him down easily. If you see, there's a video of Logan Paul and Paulo Costa playing around wrestling or whatever and sparring, and it's obvious. And Logan's a big dude, an athletic, wrestled in high school, a state champion or something like that. And decent boxer, decent athlete. But that's a whole nother level, man. When you mix in the rest.
Costa now, he made a tweet defending Putin. Not really defending, but saying he's you have to respect. It's different. It was something where it was bro, why? Dude, the dude is sending fucking missiles. They're blowing up kids and they're blowing up fucking, shelters. It's just crazy to think that in 2022, this is going on. All the technology that we have, all the medication, all these ways to find happiness that everyone is an expert on. Everyone's a life coach now, and but there are all these things that can make you happy, whether it's marijuana or just being a good person or going out for a jog, or those things were available 20 years ago. But all these, now we're in virtual reality and the metaverse, all this shit. And they're fucking bombing women's shelters. It's like, over fucking what? Like over.
Dude, it's I tell a lot of people, I mean, I know you've been around the world like I have. A lot of people don't really realize how it is, in other countries out there or whatever. Like it is. I mean, South America, especially, and even Mexico is so vicious. It's, if you go down to like Tijuana, or, you know what I mean? If you go across to Juarez, down by El Paso, it's unbelievable that you can be a half a mile from the United States and people living like that. Like it is.
Right. But it's not even the people though. It's the government. Because if you go there, they're always nice people. Like you go to any restaurant in Mexico, they'll fucking treat you well, or wherever, they'll treat you. I've been all over the world. I've been to, the only place that I really wanted to leave, like I really was like, get me the fuck out of here, was Saudi Arabia, because they had the religious police walking around there, and I'm at a restaurant and I'm telling the story, and people are like, shh, like the tour guide, who the military, like, shh, shh, shh. He's like, dude, they're out there making sure that you don't, you can't say these, you can't curse in public, or you can't do this and that. And I'm just like, yo, we got to get, and they had a place, I don't know if it was real or not, but we're driving past, and there's a place called Chop Chop Square, they call it, where if you get caught stealing, they chop your arm off. Like, and every Monday, the whole community comes there to watch people lose an arm or a leg or a dick if they rape somebody, and you're like, man, like, they said that was really true. I don't know. And then also I knew that like they were like the hottest Filipino nurses I've ever seen, but they're covered. But like you could tell, like, but they maybe they're covered on the airplane. No, on the airplane they're you can when they got off. Yeah. But they were all on like the bases, right, on the American military base. And I'm like, wait, why are these girls partying? He goes, they come for ABC. And I go, what's that? They go, alcohol, bacon, and cock, because you can't get it anywhere in Saudi Arabia.
Right, but they're Filipino?
They're Filipino, yeah.
So what are they doing in Saudi Arabia?
They're working as nurses in Saudi Arabia, and they're making money, but they can't have alcohol in the country, and they can't have bacon.
They should just do like the rest of Saudi Arabians and go to Bahrain, and you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter what you're...
Crazy. It's crazy. All right.
That's a hell of a callback, Adam, from 3 weeks ago, isn't it?
That's how we do it.
We told that story a few weeks ago.
Of course. Hot dog. Also on this card, Max Griffin is fighting Neil Magny. That should be a good fight. A really good fight. I don't know why it's so down on maybe it's just down on the thing because MMA Junkie lists it down. But Max Griffin he's the guy that made someone's ear explode. Remember? He's on a little hot streak. He beat Carlos Condit. He beat Song Kenan. He beat the guy Ramiz Brahamiz. He's the guy whose ear he lost to Alex Oliveira by decision. But he's fighting Neil Magny, who is in every fight. What's up, people? Football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From the latest odds, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. Now head over to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code CLNS50 to get started. It's not just basketball. BetOnline is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage. And it's the best in the business, okay? From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your #1 online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. Like Neil Magny, I never forget that fight against Hector Lombard. He just beat Jeff Neal, who is a badass. Remember that like Lombard fight where Lombard almost murdered him and he came back and won?
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, there was a crazy fight. Lombard, by the way, signed with Eagle FC. So he's part of Eagle FC. You remember that guy that beat Lombard in belt knuckle boxing? The guy that was like, you can now have your belt back. Remember, he was like the Diva. Well, he's fighting Joe Riggs in bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah, that seems about right. So they're going to this card. It's weird. They're going to Columbus, Ohio with like a fight night style card. I thought they would do like a pay-per-view. Like it reminds me when they came, when I fought in Indianapolis, they came and they did a pay-per-view there. And that's the card I was on, like UFC 119. And the place was like 18,000 people packed, man. And then they try to come back like a year or two later and they did a fight night there. And I requested tickets and they gave me literally the highest seats in the entire arena. Like it was 8th row. There was only 2,800 people there. So like there was no one in the upper deck except me when I walked to my seats. And I brought a girl with me and I looked like the biggest loser ever. He's like, oh yeah, I got us tickets. Like a mile from the cage. No one else sitting up there. So we just moved down. They didn't bother to check the ticket. There were so few people there. So
yeah. But well, whatever. Who cares? I mean, I guarantee you got laid that night, right?
No, she that's a long story. But yeah, got on my nerves, so she got the boot. So.
Dude, nothing was worse when I would take a girl to my comedy show and if I bombed, I'd be in the worst mood ever. And I just would especially in the beginning of my career, it would just be nothing but self-pity. And I remember one time I had a threesome and I was so angry because we had this show. I got in the beginning. I was running this show at a club and some porn star that I knew wanted to do comedy. So I put her on the flyer or something. And then all of a sudden there was a line down the block. It's like in the MySpace days, like everybody was like wanted to see it. So I'm like, why don't I just have porn stars tell jokes in between, So we did it at one club and the club was like, they better not be naked, blah, blah, blah. And then it was cool, but it was like, finally, so then I went to this place, I think it was called Forbidden City. And like the Russian mob allegedly owned it or something. And I was working with Casey Armstrong from the Howard Stern show who had just fallen off the wagon. And it was just this other guy named T Real, who was a black porn star. And we got like we weren't getting the Jenna Jamesons. We were getting like the Gonzo girls that it was like the girls that like 50 dudes jerk off. It was like, I
didn't even know Gonzo was into porn. That's weird. I had no idea.
Yeah, it was, they're called Gonzo. Right? We were like, it was like that when you look deep into the, one girl would like her claim to fame, but she put a baseball bat up her ass, like those kind of chicks, right? So right away, we make like $30 at the door, right? We charge covers, and KC is hosting it, gives away all our money to any girl that would like down lube, like fake lube, like so from the crowd. Some girl came on stage, and then it was like, dude, I went on, and the crowd was like a black biker gang, like the Rough Riders, and then it was just some weird people. And then they were not laughing. Some of the Rough Riders were laughing, but it was a hard crowd. I'm like, oh my God, like the porn stars are going to struggle up here, right? So then they go on stage, and one girl's like, that girl wouldn't serve me, that fucking bartender up there. You know what? Guess what? I'm only 18 and that girl fucking served me, or I'm 19, and just starts fucking downing shots. Now like she's announced that she's underage drinking. It was just crazy, right? And then Greg Wilson goes on stage and he's doing well. And then some other girl jumps on stage while he's on stage and she spreads her legs and she's like, hey, why don't you go down? And she had like bad acne on her face and down there. And he goes, I've been to some places, but I'm not going in Devil's Canyon, right? But like, I thought it was a great line. Dude, then the girls all jumped on stage and started wrestling with each other. And then like one girl like took the mic stand and threw it in the crowd. And that broke a girl's BlackBerry who had a BlackBerry, and it was just like, cracked it. So I had to go get the porn star to pay $300 for the BlackBerry or a sidekick. That's how it looked back. It was, dude, people left that show like they didn't know what it was, like 9/11. They didn't know what was going on. It was like a fog of like, just other people were like, this is the greatest show ever. Like, when's your next show? It was insane. Like
it sounds like an MMA event I would promote. But
yeah, dude. Anyway,
the Rough Riders wouldn't have been there.
I was so mad about this show. Two of the girls were like, hey, come back with us and have like a threesome. And I was still angry during the threesome. That's how pissed I was. Like, I don't even know why I told this story. It really didn't go anywhere. This is why I don't tell stories. Anyway, by the way, speaking of strippers, we have a girl who's a fighter who used to be an exotic dancer. And she won her first PFL fight, knocked the other girl out. She also does pro wrestling. She's hot. She's a bigger girl, like not bigger, but like she's not like 105 pounds. She fights, I think, at 155, and she's jacked. She's supposed to be joining us. She goes by the word Deserita, and she won her first PFL fight, which, by the way, I was right. We're now Tyron Woodley, Jeremy Piven, and the football player, what's his name? The guy that Ray Lewis they decided who would get the contract in the PFL.
Right.
Not really.
The natural panel of judges I would choose if I was trying to pick a good fighter.
I think the crowd too also gets to vote if you should get the contract. And I'm pretty sure she got the contract, this girl. But we're waiting for her. I know she just got a fight announced, so she's talking. All right. So also coming up in by the way, UFC 273, this main event, Korean Zombie versus Volkanovski. I don't know. I don't see. It seems like the Zombie always loses the big ones. Like he gets there and he looks great against like the guys right under the number one guys. Like he looked great against Dan Ige his last fight. He lost to Ortega 50-45s. He beat Frankie Edgar. He knocked him out. That kind of pissed me off. He knocked out Renato Moicano. He lost to Yair Rodriguez. Might have been the best fight ever. I don't think he's going to have much for Volkanovski. Call me crazy. I just think that Volkanovski beats him almost everywhere. What do you think?
Yeah. Volkanovski, man, has shocked me his last several fights, man. I never thought he was that good. Like, I thought he was going to get murdered by Ortega. Every time I see him fight, I'm like, he's going to get beat. Sure enough, man, he looked really, really good against Ortega. Like, Ortega's good, man. He's no joke. So, yeah, I would think Volkanovski easily.
Then that Aljamain versus Peter Yan, that's the fight I want to see. I want to see, Aljamain did not look great in that last one. I mean, he lost every round before the illegal knee. But I think that now but it's one of those things where if you have a really off night and you still win, I wonder if he could make the adjustments because we've seen him look amazing. I mean, Aljamain, like when he beat, what's his name in one round, remember he beat that one guy who's like amazing and he beat him quickly. Corey Sandhagen in 1 round, 1 minute and 28 seconds.
I'd like to see him do at least a better job of faking an injury if he gets beat when he's on the ground again. He could at least improve that because that should not have stopped that fight. I don't know what Jan was thinking when he did it, man. That blew my mind. Like when I went and fought in Poland or Japan, they said no elbows. Like there wasn't much of an adjustment. It's like, I just can't use my elbows. I didn't elbow anybody on accident, anything, like to train and fight as many times as Jan has. Like when are you kneeing people in the head on the ground? Like not in practice, not in fights in the UFC. So all of a sudden you just do it during the fight. Like I don't get it, man.
I'm looking forward to this fight, though. I don't know why. I'm curious. I think Aljamain can pull it off. I hope he does. He's a friend of mine. He came and coached my wrestling team for little kids. He's a really, really good guy. I just wonder what's going to happen. I'm curious because that was probably, I think, the worst version of Aljamain I've ever seen. One judge had him winning, right? Didn't one judge had him winning? Which is even crazy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I don't know where they're getting these judges, man, but it's ridiculous. Like it's always been that way against the UFC, but they need to figure something out. I don't know.
Chimaev versus Burns. Now, the word on the street is Chimaev is just destroying Darren Till in practice, and that Chimaev is just on a different level. That they're talking about him like they used to talk about other, how like, remember back in the day, like it was Overeem was the guy, they'd be like, oh, this
right.
Is, or Hector, before Hector get lost in Bellator, there were certain guys that like, you just were just excited to see what they would do. They
used to talk about Ben Askren like that too, which always surprised me. Before he's in the UFC, people that trained with him, I'd be like, is Askren legit? They'd be like, dude, he's unreal. Like people, James Krause told me that. Krause said he fucked me up, man, when they trained with each other, or whatever. He said it wasn't even close. So yeah, it didn't translate that well, but
it did. I think the hip surgery, the knee surgery, I think those ONE FC fights. I wonder if Ben Askren, who just left Bellator, who got cut for no reason, literally no reason. I mean, I've never seen a guy who the champion get cut for being too boring. And a guy who had a huge wrestling following. It wasn't like he was a guy that like, no offense to people from Dagestan, but like no one knew and had a weird name and people just couldn't really connect with. No, this was like a guy that legit was a 2-time Haas Trophy winner, 2-time Nash champion. That wrestlers all love. Like people love Ben Askren.
It was funny too. He came and met with the UFC and they Dana sat down with him for 10 minutes because we're not interested. Like he went all the way there to meet with them just to hear we're not offering you a contract. Like it's like, wow, Bellator doesn't want me. The UFC doesn't want me. Like
that was a mistake. I think I wanted to, because I just want to see how Askren would do. I think he would have done a lot better if they not put him against Masvidal. I mean, the Robbie Lawler fight was crazy too. That slammed on his head. I mean, he
Yeah,
came
that
out
was
wearing like
insane.
flip flops but then he came back and won by bulldog choke, but not really.
Yeah, but he didn't tap or get pass out. Yeah, that was a mess. That was one that Herb Dean did blow, man. Like I know Masvidal didn't like Herb Dean now, but yeah, he blew that one, man. That Robbie Lawler, if he doesn't tap, he's not going to die from being out for 2 seconds. Like you could have given him a chance to see if he got out of it. You have to relax when you're in a choke. So it may look like you're passing out, but it's to relax. That's what guys do. They just completely relax so you can, you're not burning oxygen when you can't breathe. So
it's crazy. I was at that fight sitting with Jay Haran, who was the one guy who almost beat Ben Askren, who I still think won that fight. We were watching that together at the event, and he was like, dude, this guy, he's so strong. He looks so doughy and whatever, but he just has this weird strength. And then we watched that and we're like, what? And then he came back and it was like almost comical because he's like, Dana, that's the best you got. I'm like, dude, you almost got that fight could have been stopped like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Like nobody would have complained that fight was stopped. I don't even think Askren might have not. He'd be like, yeah.
Well, that's what's weird that Herb would stop it on that choke so fast because he let Askren almost, like get his head knocked off. Like he wasn't stopping it for that, but then you get in a choke. And it was funny, man. When I first time I ever traded Street Couture, I went there with Matt Mitrione and Jay Haran and Forrest Griffin came up and talked to me. And it blew my mind that they knew who I was. Like as weird as that sounds, like I only fought in the UFC like once or twice. Like, hey, Sean, what's up? I was like, that's weird. Because to me, I thought they wouldn't even know who I am. You know what I mean? Like just some, undercard guy. But that always, like when Randy Couture knew who I was, or Don Fry, same thing, knew who I was. It blew me away. So
yeah, Jay Haran is one of the nicest, coolest people I've ever met in my life. Just as a good dude. He has so many funny stories. Did you ever hear that story about Baroni and Johnny Hendricks? So Randy, remember that team takedown? It was like Johnny Hendricks and I think it was like all those young wrestlers and a lot of them were like ASU guys. It was like Ryan Bader, Johnny Hendricks, TV Dalloway. So there was a guy that had like team takedown in Oklahoma. Basically, it was
I think he paid him or something, right? Like paid him a salary.
He gave him a salary, and it was sort of like communism in a way over there, where like they split everyone's purse, so that like, which in theory was great, but like if one guy's making $1 billion and everyone else, you're like, I'm sure Hendricks was like, what the fuck? Why am I paying Dalloway? At a certain point, you're like, what? But his basically thought was like one of those things like where in theory it sounds kind of cool, but then it doesn't always work. So they were in Vegas, Team Takedown, and Randy forgot to tell the guys at Extreme Couture. This is how I heard it. Like Pyle, Jay Haran, Baroni, I think maybe Forrest was there, and that Bonner, that these guys were coming. So they just walk in the gym, start using all the things. And now that they're like, who the fuck are these guys? Like it's like fucking like we're being like gym and we're being like dojo storm like back in the day. So they start like, hey, let's do some sparring, right? And at this time, like Johnny Hendricks is mostly just like a wrestler, but he's a 4-time national finalist, a 2-time national champion. Like, he's an amazing wrestler, but
a very good eater.
Yeah, rather good eater. So he gets in there with Baroni, and I guess like he lands a hard one on Baroni, and it's like supposed to kind of light sparring, but Baroni head kicks him and just lays him out, like fucking like knocks him out with a head kick, like immediately. And people are like, oh, they have to kind of bring him back to fucking like, yeah, fucking Baroni. Like
he died twice while he was out.
Which, yeah, I mean, Johnny Hendricks was one of those guys that like, I don't know if he ever really liked fighting. Like, I think he was just really good at fighting. And I also think he got robbed in that GSP fight. Cause
he probably deserved that one.
Yeah. That was a weird one. I still think he won that fight. And I think that was a style that would give GSP problems because Hendricks was such a good wrestler. But then Hendricks would go on to like lose fights to guys that you were like what? Like, how did that, like, it didn't seem like Hendricks really liked, dude, I remember him being the champion. And I was in Las Vegas. My charge is about to die, by the way. So I was in Las Vegas and it was like International Fight Week. Maybe it was like 2014. And Hendricks is the champ. And he's walking around double fisting it, 2 beers, beyond drunk. At like every hour you saw him, he was drunk. Like he was drunk at noon, he was drunk at 2, he was drunk at 4. And this is like when he's the UFC champion, just wasted, not knowing. It was just nice to everybody, but just partying with everybody. And you're like, you can't believe this is like, it was big fucking beer gut. And I remember my friend was like sitting down with him and he's like, yeah, I just want to make enough money to have a farm and like just raise my family. Like that's my goal. Like his goal was never to become like the greatest. And I guess he did that. Basically, he just sort of made enough money to do what he wants to do. But
should have bought himself a couple $10,000 pit bulls and started a breeding business. That's what I heard all the smart guys do.
Fucking Hendrix, man. I remember actually, dude, I did a show at OSU, Oklahoma State University. And the first one was at a sorority house. And it was like, they're all wearing like pajamas. It was like 3 sororities. And I was like super offensive back then, way more than I am now. And one girl's like, this jokes are offensive. And the other girl goes, sit down, bitch. No one cares what you think. And they started like fighting in the crowd, like arguing. And like, I won them over. One of the greatest nights ever. Right. Yeah. Then my agent's like, oh, I booked the second show for you. Like, fuck, I want to see the sorority house. I go there. It's at like, people are playing like fake poker. Like, they're not even really playing poker. Like, it's like fake poker. And they put me on a chair in the middle of a cafeteria. Nobody's listening. And I'm like calling them all, like, you guys listen, college is not going well for you guys. Like, you guys are here. Like, so that night, I pretty much bombed. That night I'm drunk. I had a couple drinks. I'm not even drunk. I'm by myself at a bar in Oklahoma, like drinking after this show, like, which I never go out to bars on myself or even drink. That's how bad the show went. I look over and there's a guy with just fucking ears out to here, right? And I'm like, oh, you guys wrestle? And at this time, I hadn't followed college wrestling in a long time. And the guy was like, yeah, and it was this guy named Zach Esposito. He was like ranked second. He second in the country. He's like, yeah, man, I'm on the wrestling team. And this is my boy. And it was his boy, Steve Mako. And I don't remember Mako. He was like he was national champion.
Well, yeah, wasn't he a legend at Militich's gym or something, I think?
He's like the head wrestling coach at American Top Team, like forever. Like he was the man. So they're like, yeah, come out with us. So we go out and there's a fucking guy with his shirt off, drunk, like bumping into the walls. He's like, that guy, he won the nationals this year. It's Hendrix. Like fucking, that's Johnny Hendrix in college, right?
Right.
So then, dude, it was kind of funny. So we go back to this guy's, like, they're living in trailers, like legit trailers. They're like, oh, this is where we live. I'm like, you live in a trailer? Like, I thought, I don't know. I just thought there'd be like a house or something, but it was a nice trailer. But like, that's where the rest of the pups, see, they each had one, and we're talking and we're having like the best time. And the one Esposito like loved Opie and Anthony back then. So I'm like, oh, I'm friends with Jim Norton. Really? So I called Jim Norton and he talks to him, and it was like, he was like, starstruck. It was pretty cool. Yeah. And then Mako, I remember watching a documentary on ESPN about Iowa wrestling, where the one guy, he was on the team. His father went to jail for like being a like legit mobster, and he just got out of jail. And now he was baking pizzas for the whole team, or he's been like years in jail. And it was the heavyweight. And you like the guy. Like, it was something really cool about the guy, right? So I'm gonna get a charger before this thing falls. So
he was running the Iowa Mafia.
Yeah, no, it was the guys from Jersey. It was a Jersey guy.
Oh, okay.
So we're sitting there and we're talking and we're having fun. I'm trying to get a charger while I tell this story. Yes. Oh, you're gonna leave? Yeah. Okay. So thank you. So I'm sitting there with all the guys, and I'm like, hey, whatever happened to that guy from Iowa who was the heavyweight, whose dad was a mobster, and he was like a nice guy. And meanwhile, that was Mako. He transferred to Oklahoma State. Like, I asked about the guy whose dad was a mobster to the guy whose dad was a mobster. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Dude, there was this fucking silence, right? There was silence, and all of a sudden they all start laughing. Like, they all start, and I'm like, what? He's like, that's me. I was like, what? I was like, oh, I'm sorry, man. And like, he's no, it's all good. These are the coolest guys ever, right? So then they went on, and then they were the next day, on like that Monday, as me and Zach are still friends. And Zach hits me up that Monday. He's like, bro, check out my school paper. And it was comedian offends entire student body. It's like,
that's awesome.
Front cover. Like, if you missed Adam Hunter's comedy show, he made jokes about race and sex and drugs. And it was like the best promo ever. Like, I'd want to watch that and be like, oh shit, I should have missed that show. But it was crazy. I wish I still had the article.
That's awesome.
Dude, yeah, that was fucking Mako. That was only a couple times I did that. There was a girl that I used to roll with, who was a stripper, and she was like super hot. And but she was crazy. Like that, I won't say she's crazy. She had some issues, right? She was like, and like I asked her out. She wanted nothing to do with me, but my friend banged her like in like the bathroom of a bar. So anyway, so another friend comes to my comedy show. And they're like, yeah, you know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, this person, and we're hanging out. I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, I'm like, you're from Legends? Oh, cool. I trained at Legends. Whatever happened to that girl that was a stripper that my buddy banged in the bathroom? And it was her. Like, she looked way different. She changed her name. And I'm like, oh, no. Dude, that was so fucking. The rest of the night, I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you knew.
So she went from Cinnamon to Mercedes or something like.
Yeah, it was like that. It was rough, dude. It was rough.
That reminds me, dude, of the time. It's a long story, but basically, I was on an airplane and the guy next to me, his breath smelled like shit. So I write on Facebook. I don't know. I know for sure what the guy sitting next to me on the plane Detroit had for dinner. I just didn't know Detroit airport had a shit sandwich shop, you know, or whatever. So the guy starts talking to me, and I'm trying not to talk to him. He starts asking me if I'm going out to what I'm going out to Las Vegas for. He's going to a UFC fight, blah, blah. I said, yeah. He goes, you look like you could fight. I said, yeah, I'd fight. He's like, UFC. I was like, yeah. And I'm talking to him. He asked me what my name was. And so I kind of lay my head to the side, and some turbulence wakes me up, and he's got my Facebook page pulled up. And the first line of my status is on there saying his breath smells like shit, like the shit sandwich or whatever.
God.
He was telling my head on Facebook. I was like, no, that's my fan page here. And I took his phone from him, dude, because I was like, I am not riding another 3 hours next to this dude after he reads. I just talk shit about him on, you know, Facebook. But I didn't think he would even be able to spell my name correctly to find me on Facebook. But yeah, I kept hitting refresh on his phone. It was a nightmare. But yeah, that was I don't know. I'd love to see my face then, because I looked down. I was like, wait, that's my Facebook page. So I was like, holy shit, that's my status. Like, he's getting ready to read. So,
oh no.
Like,
yeah, dude, I mean, I've done that where I've sent the wrong text to the wrong person, like shitting on that person. And then like, LOL, ha ha. I'm really working on that right now. My new goal, first of all, I'm working on not having to like prove myself to people, because I'll meet people. And for some reason, I always think I have to tell them how I'm doing in life. Like, if I don't let them know that I just did this, that, and this and that, then they're going to go and think I'm a failure, or that they're going to go and be like, oh, I was not doing that well. Like, I have to not have to prove myself to every single fucking person. I've been doing that since I was like, I don't know, 3. So that's a habit to break. And then also I'm working on not, which I know these things, and it sounds terrible even saying it out loud, but for some reason, like, I have to, like, with my dad, I'll tell my dad, oh, I can't believe my sister did this. Like, I have to, like, still seek his approval by shitting on my sister or something. I love my sister, she's my best friend. But I'm like, why do I have to, he's not going to like me better by me doing that. It's like, I'm 43. I should be not doing this shit anymore. But that was.
I would just blame your stepmom. It'd be easier. Blame her for how you turned out in any.
Meanwhile, talk to yourself for a second. I got to keep this girl's coming on the show. All right, so.
Well, see you later.
All right, here we go. I just stepped in cat shit.
So the thing about Brendan Schaub is, it would be okay if Schaub knew that he wasn't funny, but he thinks he's the second coming of Richard Pryor, so that's why I have an issue with him to a degree.
All right, so she's coming on, Desirita, who, by the way, also, she goes by Desiderata on Instagram, but her name is not that. It's Jessalyn Michelle on Facebook. So I don't know what she's doing as far as her fights, because I don't know if she's going by her wrestling name or her stripper name or what. But she's not a stripper anymore. She did it. Basically, she ran away from home or something, and she was on her own. She needed money. She started dancing. And then she started doing pro wrestling. She trains. She's got a crazy life, this girl. Super cool. Like, just one of these people that you feel like you want her to succeed. You know, like if she had a movie, I'd watch this movie about her life. That's how I felt about, I forgot who I talked to the other day that was like that. There was, I had a girl that was a adult film star who was super cool, like just like the coolest.
And you supported her by watching her movies?
Dude, she was in, dude, one of her movies was like the biggest gangbang ever part 2, right? And I was like, I didn't see the first one. Do I have to watch the first one to catch up? Is it like the Matrix where you won't understand, you know, like kind of a thing? Yeah. She didn't laugh at all at that one at all. But she was really cool, but she was out there. Like, this girl, she's fucking like, yeah, Jasmine St. Clair. But this girl's life, she comes on the podcast. I didn't know this about her. She went to Columbia, super smart. And then she married.
The country or the university?
The university. And then she was with this guy and she got arrested for insider trading for $3 million. And then while she was at Columbia, she was stripping. So she basically got kicked out of Wall Street. She became a porn star and then became like the biggest porn star ever. Like one of the, like a major, she got like an AVN award, but then she got in some bad relationships. She ended up in ECW wrestling somehow. And then after that, like it just kept she was homeless and now she's into politics and she's sort of like, she's got a crazy story. It was one thing after another. I was like, dude, you got to make a movie on your life because holy shit. Like she was on Howard Stern but she said it wasn't like the biggest gangbang. It was like 301 people, but it was only like 40 people, but some of them came back with like mustaches. Like it was the same person, like they just came.
That's Hollywood for you. Those props. So there it goes. I wonder if your one buddy from Las Vegas was in it.
She said a couple of guys like, a couple of pizza delivery guys came. He said it looked like an insane asylum. There's a couple of cute guys that were like Marines, but one guy ran up to her like 10 years later and he's like, "Hey, remember me?" And she said, "No." He was like number
I don't recognize you without the fake mustache. No, I don't.
If you had the number like I was 147, kind of a thing. Like,
oh yeah,
like you don't want to be last on that line. I feel like a gangbang. You have to be first. You have to be first or nothing. You don't want to. I just can never do it. I couldn't have another guy in there. Like even in my porn.
I don't think it matters what number you are at that point. Like if you're one of 300 that day, it's probably not really rolling the dice.
But not three of them. But they didn't. She said if you grabbed her tit, she counts that as a guy or something. It wasn't even like that because I was like they have to finish because she would still be there. They have to finish.
Sure.
I don't think I could finish at all if I knew that there was 280 guys. Just that would get in my head. Just couldn't really. Anyway,
I see you really thought this through.
I don't know if this girl's coming on. Come on, Desiderata. I hope she's coming. I like her. She's a cool chick.
Maybe you have her under her other name in your phone.
Man, I used to have before Zoom, I had people's phone numbers and I could just call them and be like, "Hey, blah, blah, blah." But now it's like, you can't even call these people. I don't know their numbers anymore. All right. So we'll just keep going. And then a couple more things. And then if she doesn't come, fuck it. I think people were entertained by this one. I know they were. So MMA. All right, here we go. Yeah. How is McGregor? What is he thinking? Come on, dude. He's not getting a title shot. There's no way. I can see the UFC doing that, but maybe if they make him and Usman coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, then maybe they could sell it that way.
I think the only way they would do anything like that is if they thought it was going to be one of Connor's last fights, or whatever, because he don't want to keep stacking up the losses. He's only going to have drawing power if he wins occasionally. He can't just keep losing. So
you like Chimaev or Gilbert Burns?
Man, from everything I've heard about Chimaev, probably him. It will be interesting to see the first time he faces adversity, because when it's great when you're the guy beating everybody up, but first time someone fights back, it kind of shows a lot of guys' characters. But I think, dude, he seems psychotic, so I doubt he's like, a pussy. Like he seems like he would fight to the death, so he'll probably be fine with some adversity. So,
Mackenzie Dern is fighting Tisha Torres. Man. Mackenzie Dern was so nice at the award show. I made like 10,000 jokes about her, either missing weight or fake accent. And then when I met her, "Oh, nice to meet you." And I wanted to be like, "Hey, my name is Adam, and I'm sorry." I just wanted to say apologize. She was such a sweetheart. Her daughter is 2 years old and the cutest thing. And she's playing with my daughter. They're running back and forth, having the best time ever. But then she does jujitsu, her daughter. Like she takes her to practice. She kept taking down my daughter, or she kept pulling guard. My 3-year-old's looking at her like, what? Like but she's laughing about it, like pulling guard and laughing and like going for like guillotines. My kid doesn't know what this is. Like she doesn't know. She knows how to wrestle kind of, but even the rest, I go, "Let's wrestle." I go, and then I let her pin me and go, "I'm the winner." And I raise her hand. It's like, it's
right before Herb Dean jumps in and stops it. He's like, "Enough."
Kelvin Gastelum is fighting Nasruddin Imavov. Kelvin needs a win. Come on, Kelvin, please. He just beat Edmund Shabazian by TKO ground and pound. He knocked out Ian Heinisch. Oh man, this dude's tough.
Is he back at 70 or is he still trying to fight at 185?
That is a good question. This fight, they're saying it's going to be at 85.
God, if Gaston would get to 70, man, he would be so much better. Like, he just don't have the frame to fight those guys, man.
Yeah, I don't. It's like he said he was going to go down. Man, Arena Donna versus Aspen Ladd. That's a good fight. Marcin Tabara is taking on Rosenstruck. Oh, that's a good fight.
Yeah.
Both those guys have like the worst fight IQ. And they hit fucking hard as hell. I like that fight a lot. Remember Rosenstruck is another guy though. Like everyone's like, this is the guy. And I'm like, dude, the guy's had 4 fights. Like you can't say he's the guy with 4 fights. There's no fucking way. And unless the guy has like 120 amateur kickboxing fights or pro kickboxing fights or comes from another where you're like, and even then it's just fucking crazy. Now, Mickey Gall is fighting Michael Malott. I don't know who Mike Malott is. He goes by the Main Attraction. And I don't know who he is, so he's got to fix that. He's also on the undercard. But whatever. Let's go Mickey. And then Mark Madsen, not Michael Madsen. Mark Madsen, who's that guy? He's like 11-0. He was like the Olympian. I think he was from Denmark. And his nickname is the Olympian. He's the guy that like has amazing Greco-Roman, but he beat Clay Guida, but I thought Clay won that fight. He's fighting our guy, Vince Pichel. I hope Vince wins. I really do. I really hope Vince wins.
I like Vince, man, a lot from being on the podcast with him.
He's such a good dude. I mean, Vince is one of those guys that like, if I ever killed somebody, I'd call you. I'd call Don Fry. I call Vince. Any one of our co-hosts. I probably would have called Mayhem too. But by the way, I have not heard from Mayhem. People keep asking me. He hasn't called me. He called me once from jail, and I didn't know where he was. The calls from like a block number. And it just goes to the machine. And it just says, an inmate at blah, 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 penitentiary wants to make a collect call. But that was it. I don't know. I mean, hopefully Jason gets the help he needs, man. Beyond talented, that kid. What a fucking waste. What a waste. But I guess, the problem with madness is it goes both ways, right? Like some people, they could funnel their madness and use it to do great things. And other people just fucking can't get out of their own way.
He's so smart. It's hard for me to believe he messes up in life like that. You know what I mean? Because like he's an intelligent guy, man. When you talk to him, like he's bright. So it's like it's weird that a guy his age would be getting in trouble too when he's in his late 30s, early 40s. As opposed to usually they get in trouble when they're young. Guys like him, like a bunch. It's just strange, man.
Well, it's one of those things that I think is like, when you put things together, right? Like getting punched in the head can't be good for your brain. I don't care anybody says. And then drugs aren't good for your brain. I know there's some certain psychedelic mushrooms or marijuana, but those aren't the drugs he was taking. Okay. That made him nuts. So let's say those drugs can't be good for your brain. And then alcohol, and I think when you combine all 3 of them, it's like 1 + 1 = 20. It's not 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. Especially with a guy like him who comes from a family of like, his dad was a fucking helicopter pilot.
That is crazy.
Pirate, by the way, helicopter pilot in Vietnam, like jumped out of planes, and I just think that like he used to tell me that he had a chemist at one point that was making him drugs that weren't on the market. Like call me nuts, but that's not. You shouldn't have your own chemist.
Right. That's convenient if you could find it, I guess. But,
I mean, unless you're a chemist, I don't think you should have it. I mean, see, he was giving him drugs. I'm like, bro, I remember one time he opened up my drawer, which I had all kinds of like antidepressant medication. And like, I had, muscle relaxers from when I was sick or something, or, Vicodin from when I was hurt. He's like, oh dude, I just want to take all these right now. And like, if I wasn't there, I have a feeling he would just fucking scoop it up, and like, bro, what are we doing here? So, but when Jason is sober, fuck. I mean, and that's the most frustrating thing. One thing if he was like fucked up when he was sober and fucked up when he's fucked up, you're like, this guy's fucked up. But when a guy is so amazing when he's sober, but so fucking horrible when he's on drugs, and I'm not blaming the drugs because it's not like he didn't know. You can't claim, oh, I was 17. I didn't know dude, I was so stupid that I didn't think that I could get a girl pregnant when I was young. When I was younger, come on, I'm not gonna get pregnant. Like, granted, it's my fault, right? But you can't claim that you were a young kid, experimenting. But I'll give a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 17-year-old a pass. I shouldn't at 17, but I will. Maybe I'm just too lenient. When you're 40 years old and you've been arrested and you've done serious time, eventually it's like, bro, like, you come on.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I always, people would kind of give me a hard time because I didn't drink the first time until I was like 25 in my life. Like, never drank, never did anything, because I was always like, if I don't know what I'm missing, it won't be hard not to do, So that's why I still have never tried cocaine. I would never try heroin. I would never anything, because I was like, everybody I've ever talked to who did cocaine said it's the greatest experience you'll ever have in your life. And you'll miss it every day if you don't do it. So I was like, I don't need that in my life, So I always stayed away from anything like that.
I did cocaine 3 times in my life. One time it was off a stripper's breast, then off his cock. No, it was just like this fucking hot chick that was like, I was living in New York, did a line, and then I banged her. I was like, dude, come on, if you're going to do it. And then with another guy I did it with, who then tried to tell me that he wanted to have sex with me. And I was like, no, I'm into girls. He's like, well, you bang her and I'll fuck you from behind. He was a celebrity. I was like, still no.
Seems like a fair compromise.
I thought I was going to get a buffer joke there. But so then you're losing it, Sean. You're losing.
I know. I kicking myself right now. The 3-minute section where I was trashing Shab kind of used up all my ammo. So when you were gone in the other room.
So that was the second time. It didn't get me that high. It got me so low the next day. I felt true depression. I've been depressed when my dog died, when my stepmom died. I mean, I've been depressed before. This was a fucking like depression like I haven't felt in a long time when I did cocaine. And then I was like, well, maybe I should do more coke. I'll get up again. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know if it's the high. I think it's the low. But that's me. Right. That was how it affected me. And other people are different.
Well, that's what, man, a lot of people don't know that, but people are on heroin and stuff. They're not even trying to get high again. They're trying to keep the withdrawals off. You know what I mean? Is what they're trying to do. So a lot of them are desperate, trying to find anything to stop the withdrawals, because the withdrawals are so terrible,
Yeah, 100%.
So it isn't even the high. It's just not going through withdrawals,
And I'm sure painkillers is the same thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. If your doctor will only prescribe you about 10% what you need, it's fun every month.
So I don't think Jess is
coming home. You get to be in pain every day of the month, or not in pain a few days and then be sick after. So it's a great thing.
All right. I want to do it in 2 weeks. Let's just want to do it in 2 weeks. It sounds very like sexual. By the way, I did a show on Wednesday, and this girl who had the biggest boobs ever. Fortunately, she doesn't have a lot of other big parts as well. But she was a pretty face, nice girl. I go, any questions? She goes, let me see your dick. And I guarantee you, if I would have been like, all right, if I whip it out, you got to suck it. She would have done it in 3. Like, she was just like, which I didn't do. But I kind of like.
You were like, what do you think this is? Old dirty bastard's funeral? Not pulling out my dick.
You may want to end it on that fucking. So this girl, Kay Hansen, who has an OnlyFans. This girl, I don't know how I feel about this girl. I like her as a person. I've known her since she was 17 or 18. She was like the youngest girl in Invicta. She got a scholarship for softball to Harvard, that they were saying. She went into MMA, dropped out of high school, just the coolest chick. Then she wore a shirt that said pro-life, pro-gun, pro-God at one of her things. So she immediately got like 10 million more fucking fans. Like, if you want to win over MMA fans, that's probably a good shirt to do it. And she's one of these girls that like, she's got some big wins. Jinu Fry, she beat Sharon Jacobson. She's 7-5, but she's only 20. What is she? She was born she's 22 years old. She's young, but she's got an OnlyFans account. And I would obviously never go on anyone's OnlyFans because I'm not paying for anybody. I understand people's rationale. You do you. It's just not my thing. My daughter just came home. So this is a good way to end the podcast. But yeah, I like her. I hope she doesn't go into that route where she's showing her bad vagina for money. I don't know why. I'm not her dad, and I'm not, her this, that, but I just feel like, I don't know. Something kind of, I don't know. It's something very pure about it.
Well, it's a short ride from that to where you're meeting up with a Marine that was number 147, down the road. So you don't want to.
Sean,
you don't want to go too far with any of it.
Sean, I don't want to kiss your ass. I don't want you to get a big head. You already have a big head, but
I was gonna say my head's giant.
But I hope you never leave this podcast because you make me laugh. You consistently make me laugh. Greg Wilson, Don Fry, honestly, like the best four people. Like you got three people. You guys kill me, dude. It's the most fun I have. So
we got to figure out a way to do one or two in person, man. It'd be great if we could ever work it out.
100%. I'm talking to people right now. I had a great meeting today with a major network over PIN. I'm not going to say what it was, but
was that Larry David that just walked by in the background? Because that's what it looked
my
like.
dad. My dad looks.
Oh, okay. I thought it was. You literally thought it looked like Larry David.
Remember, say hi to Sean. You remember Sean from the wedding?
Who?
Sean McCorkle.
Oh yeah, Sean. Is that Sean?
Yeah.
Brother?
Sean was like. Remember, you were showing him pictures of you like knocking people out at the wedding within 3 seconds.
My brother-in-law loved it.
Yeah. I was. Yeah. I was doing it, or he was.
You were. And then you told Scott Baio, settle down, Chachi.
No, I asked him. He said, "Charles, can you help us out?" Because we were arguing. That was great.
By the way, Scott's
appreciate it.
Scott's a great guy, a great human being. So anyway, that's our podcast. Check me out, AdamHunterComedy.com. Thank you, Sean. Hope you guys have a great week and take care. Take care, Sean.
All right. See you, man.